that and make sure that you're able to enjoy the rest of your Saturday. I know time is premium, very premium. So I definitely appreciate you for taking the time. I see it booting up. It's coming. It's coming. It's coming on Twitch. It's coming on the other platforms. Okay, there we are. There we are. There we are. All right. I want to welcome you to today's edition of Institute for Higher Consciousness. And this is the once a month open class that we do have and open to the other platforms. So for everyone that may come in a little bit, you're here. Thank you, Rebel. I see you. And I'm able to see on my monitor here that we are streaming. So this is, again, this is our Institute for Higher Consciousness open session that we do once a month. I see you, Anita Harvey. Good morning to you. So we're going to get ready to get rolling, and we're going to continue. For those in the class, we are to chapter 2. And chapter 2, we're going to cover KK79. I see you. Good morning to you, and hello once more and again. So the Institute for Higher Consciousness open session is now going forth. I want to go ahead and get it started. We are on chapter 2 for those that have the book. And again, let me pull this up so you all can see exactly where we are, and we can go through this together. Just a moment here. Let me get us set up. I'm going the wrong direction here. Oh, there we go. Come back. And then let me share. Let me share this with the group. Okay. Okay, can everybody see it? Can everybody see the Hidden Messages of Water by Dr. Masaru Emoto? Let me know if you can see it. Good. Okay, you can see it. All right, let's get started. And again, we are continuing through. This is chapter 2 that we are now on. And we're going to just go through the slides today and get as far as we can. Good morning, Kai Chick. Good to see you. Come on in. That's my sister. Truck driver, I see you typing. Good morning to everybody that's here. Truck, I didn't think you were going to come in today, but it's good to have you nonetheless. I appreciate you while you're traveling. Now, as we get started talking, we're on chapter 2. And so I want to start with the idea. Water records everything. This is, again, in the concept as we talk about water, again, going back to some of the things that we covered in chapter 1. Your body is predominantly water. Good morning, Sheila Miles. I see you. Your body is predominantly water. Now, as we've talked about water from the very beginning, and if we stop and think about it, all creation came out of the water. When there was nothing else here, there was water. And then organisms begin to grow. So as we stop and think about that, good morning, K2 Hoop, come on in. As we stop and think about that and the significance of how much of your body is made out of water, and the greatest percentage of you is actually water, then we started talking about vibrations and how things vibrate. Everything that exists vibrates. As I say, the table that you're sitting in front of is vibrating. The keyboard that you're typing on, for those that are typing on your computer, it's vibrating. Everything is vibrations. So I want us to understand, when we start talking about the elements of where we are right now and trying to put all of this together, I think one of the last things we talked about was sound. And we understand that sound is vibration as well. Good morning, KK Michelle. Good to see you. Sound is nothing more than vibration. And we get, when we talked about notes, we talked about do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, and ti. Those 7 notes. And again, when you double them, at so many hertz per minute, that's how many times per minute it's turning. If you understand that, then it just starts right back over again. You have those same 7, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti. We talked about how those 7 and the number 7 and perfection in 7 and completion in 7, just like 7 days in a week and so many other things that we look at. That completion and that perfection that we see in those frequencies understand those frequencies depending on how many times it's turning again. That determines the sound. And every time you double it, you go to another octave. So you can go to another octave, and then you can go to another octave. So you can go higher, you can go lower, still be on that same frequency. Know that that note A is always going to be the frequency of the note A. So when we look at understanding that water comprised of frequency, comprised of molecules, we talked about that. I'm kind of doing a real quick overview and recap of chapter 1 and some of the things that we talked about. Molecules, and understanding that quarks are now, where we used to say the atom was the smallest particle. Now we know that quarks that we look at are considered the smallest of the, even smaller than an atom as far as a particle. And then we take atoms and put them together to make molecules. And each of those molecules, depending on what it's bound to, the valence and the number of protons, the neutrons, the electrons, all of those things balance. So when we come to a point of understanding that everything in our world is designed to come into this same similarity of finding balance, of finding your frequency, of finding your vibration. When we tell people vibrate high, I want to kind of deal with that from this stance of this first video clip. And the first point that Dr. Emoto starts talking about: pour a glass of water, place it on the table. That water will record everything that happens, because we've already talked about the fact that water has memory. Now, I want to deal with that from this perspective. Consider yourselves, and we even talked about, if we took all of our molecules, if we took all of our quarks and put them together, we may fit everybody in the world in a tablespoon, and everybody's molecules, because if you break it down to its smallest size, it's going to be so minute that you could get everybody in the world in like a tablespoon, and get all their molecules gathered there together. Now, but these molecules that we have are like they are superpowers. If we think about water and its existence from the beginning of the earth, its ability to pick up vibrations, its ability to have memory, this is what I want us to think about, kind of in the perspective of how you operate, how you vibrate, how you are able to vibrate high and or vibrate low, how you can get on a higher frequency versus being on a lower frequency. And then, of course, we had Fairly All Day, who came in and shared with us about chakra balancing. So we understand all these different elements, and your chakra can get out of balance, or things in your world can become imbalanced. How do we keep that balance? Now, this is where I wanted to start, because if you think about just like that glass of water, think of yourself as that vessel that contains, again, majority water. Think about all the things in your life that have happened to you. Understand that just like that glass of water, when you place it on the table, that water is recording everything. Now, let's translate that over and consider yourselves just like that glass of water. That water that is predominantly all you. And we talk about this in science sometimes. I've been from anatomy and physiology. If you really stop and think about it, you remember everything that's happened in your life, even from the womb to the present. That memory is in your brain somewhere. That memory is in your brain somewhere. Now, just stop and digest that for a moment. That memory is somewhere. Now, what the brain does, the brain determines what is information that you need to be able to put your hands on, what's information that's not important, that you don't need to put your hands on, but it's in there. So that's the idea. Even in psychotherapy, a lot of times when people's memories are repressed and they can't recall a thing, and they're trying to work through that healing of the mind, they're trying to work through that healing of what has traumatized that individual. A lot of times they will use some level of hypnosis and go back into your mind and go into those deep recesses, wherever that's buried, and they will work to bring that memory back, because the reality is it's in there somewhere. It's in there somewhere. So this is where I want to go with this today. if we're thinking about pouring a glass of water, putting it on the table, and again, remembering that water is going to record everything that happens, I want us to come from this vantage point today to find a place of how do we manage the memory in our water? How do we manage the memory that's in our water? How do we manage the memory that's in our body? How do we manage the memory that's in our brain? Good morning to you, Ron's Gotson Busy. I'm sure I tore that out. Ron's Gitson Busy. Okay, good to have you today. This is an open session, once more again, of Institute for Higher Consciousness, and the open session is open to everybody. We're glad that you joined us on today. So this is a thing. There comes that place in time where your memory may begin to come up and manifest. If you deal with people that have PTSD, sometimes even if you see the PTSD where when I know they first really started kind of depicting people with PTSD, particularly those that had combat, they were in shell shock, and many times would literally, their memory would go back and replay what that water, if you will, had recorded, and they would go into a state of PTSD, and that shell shock state would cause them to go back and literally go through the motions, the activities, the memories, everything, just as if they were actually in that situation. That is a part of what we're talking about when we talk about that water records everything. So then the question becomes, as we're talking about moving into boss energy, how do we move and maneuver those areas of memory around so that we can continue to function? How do we manipulate those areas of memory so that it doesn't become something that holds us in a state of bondage where we cannot move forward? And with that, I also want to just add right there, sometimes it may be a matter of getting professional therapy and professional help to help you to move and maneuver so that you're not stuck, so that you're not in a state if it's in an extreme situation. But at the same time, I'm just talking more so from just day to day general activity. I'm not going to the extreme of a massive trauma, but I'm just throwing and explaining that massive trauma is because this fact is true, that water holds that memory. If you even think about your brain, which is still majority water, holds that memory. So how do we maneuver and operate in our boss energy? We talked about connecting to our core. We talked about the idea of dust to dust and reconnecting. So as I'm coming to this point of reconnecting, good morning, DJ Rock and Ron. There's my brother. This is an open session of Institute for Higher Consciousness. Thank you for joining us on this morning. So this becomes an issue that I want to put forward as how many times we can come into a place and come into a state of not moving in our boss energy because of what's recorded. Okay, let's dissect that and deal with this for a little bit. Moving into your boss energy in spite of that you've recorded, because some of the things that you've recorded in your memory are going to be things that will keep you vibrating at a lower frequency if you do not deal with it, if you do not appropriately place it in the right octave. Can I put it like that? Does it need to be in the lower range, in a lower octave? Does it need to be in a dominant range, in a higher octave? If you know anything about instruments and playing the piano, even though the piano has those lower octaves, a lot of times you don't hear a lot of music in the lower octaves. Why? Because if you stay in those lower octaves, it sounds real muddy. Or actually, it will get frightening. If you think about a lot of times when you hear the real low octaves, and then sometimes when you hear the real high octaves, I promise you, you may actually be sitting and listening to music from a horror movie. from a horror movie. When you hear all that rumbling down in those lower octaves, it's like it builds, your energy starts to feel that. Your energy starts to relate to that. Your energy starts to identify with that. And they got all that low rumbling of the instruments down here real low in those lower octaves. And I'm telling you, if you stay in the lower octaves, and just start, as a matter of fact, more times than not, you're not going to find the songs written in a lower octave. You're not going to find the crux of that song. You may go down into the lower octaves every now and again, but you're not going to chord. You're not going to take your right hand and your left hand and play in those lower octaves. Why? Because it starts sounding like a horror movie. It starts sounding garish. It starts sounding frightening. So this is what I'm saying when I talk about, then if we look at all of this that you've recorded in your memory, some of you are trying to play the songs of life in those lower octaves. And what starts coming out of that is that it starts sounding like a horror movie. It starts becoming frightening. It starts becoming scary. And so when you get ready to move in that boss energy, you're like, I know that I'm a beautiful song. I know that I'm a symphony in life, that I have something to contribute to this earth. How come I'm not hearing and experiencing what I want to hear? And I'm going to say, I believe it's because many times the memory and the recall that we keep, there's a thing that we talk about in counseling, ruminating, someone that's ruminating. And what is rumination? What is ruminating? When you have had an experience or something that goes on, come on, Dr. Dady, we're songs in the key of life personified. That's exactly what we are. We are songs in the key of life personified. Thank you for that. We wonder why, and then even to the matter of, why doesn't anybody want to hear my song? Why doesn't anybody listen to my song? If your songs in the key of life, I'm going to keep using that, Dr. Dady, thank you. If our songs in the key of life personified are all coming from those lower octaves, from those lower frequencies, it may sound good to you, and it can be the exact same notes. Those exact same notes that you would play in the middle range of the keyboard, those exact same notes that you would play in the upper register of the keyboard, the exact same notes, but depending on where you're playing it from, the effect is different. So you're wondering, why aren't people migrating and gravitating towards my song in the key of life personified? And it's like, the octave is too low. And this is where, again, ruminating. We talk about something that's happened, and a person that ruminates just plays it over and over and over and over and over. And in that instance, we'll not even just talk about, and I'm going to purport and suggest that is when we begin to go into those lower frequencies. If you'll track with me in this analogy, that's where we go into those lower frequencies, because you just keep replaying it over and over and over and over. And usually, there can be times when you want that repeat. There can be times when you want to hear it again. But then there's times when it's like it's stuck. For those of us that came out of the era when records were on vinyl, you knew when there was a scratch in a certain place and it would get scratched, and it would just get hung up on that same spot. Because it was scratched. And this is what I'm saying when we come into understanding. Yes, I have, just like that glass of water on the table, the ability to record, and I do record everything that happens. But I want you to ask yourself, am I scratched? Is my record scratched? And at the end of the day, what did we do when you had a scratched record, especially if the scratch was bad? Sometimes you could just tap the needle and make that needle jump over to the next rung, the next groove in that piece of vinyl. But if it absolutely positively was a serious scratch, you may not even be able to play that song. You might just have to lift the needle up all the way and go to the next song on the record. So many times I want us to understand, as we realize I'm recording, because again, what did I say? You're 75 and more % water. If you understand and identify, I might either be at too low of a frequency, and what did I say? You can take those same left hand, right hand chords and play them in the middle range with an occasional left hand going down to the lower register, with an occasional right hand going up to the upper register. But predominantly, you're going to play most of that song right there in the middle, in that middle range. If I'm down there and I'm doing left and right, it's going to sound like a horror movie. I promise you. I'm asking you to take this same concept about your song in the key of life, knowing that you remember everything. Your water is recording that. It does not get, again, your brain will decide what do I need to have access to, and it'll keep that top of brain. But everything that I don't need to have access to, it's going to push it down. So stop and take this personal assessment when we're talking about moving and operating in boss energy. Are there some things that I'm in the wrong range? I need to come up out of that lower octave and pull up into the middle range and play it from there. Maybe even take it every now and again to that upper range. And I know for myself, a lot of times when I'm playing, and what do I use that upper range for? For me, a lot of times when I'm playing that upper range, I want to have a soft, smooth, soothing type of feel to the music that I'm playing on the keyboard. So I'm still left hand, right hand doing the same thing I do in the middle, but I'll take that to the upper range, play it very sweetly and very softly, and create a whole different feeling, a whole different vibe, just from changing those same chords that I'm playing in the middle range, taking them to the upper range, and that beautiful, sweet tinkling that seems very calm and very peaceful, very pleasing to the ears, to allow a person to relax and just chill and just take it easy. Depending on where I place my hands in the range is a determinant as to what the reality is and the end result and the effect that I bring forth. So when we look at songs in the key of life personified, then I'm gonna come back and say, listen, do you need to move into another range? Do you need to move into another octave? Do you need to move into another level? Yes, you remember it. And I'm gonna come here when I talk about boss energy, because don't let it be a failure. If it's a failure, we will take that failure in whatever it is, and we will just keep down in that lower range, down in those lower octaves, and we're just and it is just absolutely scary. It's absolutely frightening. It's absolutely like, oh my God, I'm paralyzed. Y'all know how it gets when and you almost can't move. Your heart is pounding. Your heart is racing. Your mouth goes dry. You're nervous. You're like, oh my God, you're shaking. You're shivering because you're down there in that low range. I failed. I missed it. It didn't turn out like I wanted it to. I messed up. Some of us are still in that lower octave. You're going back and you're ruminating, playing it over and over and over and over. Maybe it's not your failure. Maybe it's somebody's hurt or somebody that wounded you, and you just keep replaying it over and over, and you're down there in that lower range, and it's just like horror music. Now, so I'm gonna keep saying that. It's just like terrifying horror music, and you cannot move forward, just like that same paralysis. Y'all know how y'all get on the edge of your seat at the movie theater. And if you now go to the movie theaters where they have surround sound and your whole chair and everything else is vibrating, it's like, oh my God, that suspense and that I mean, it just will take you over and send you into another level. But I'm saying to you, I need you to take, and then again, ruminating. I'm going to equate ruminating to that scratched record. Because at that point, you don't even get to the next line of the song. That scratched record just keeps at that same spot. At that same, you don't even hear the rest of the song. At that same spot, at that same spot, at that same spot, at that same spot. And you did this at that same spot. And they did this to you at that same spot. And this is what happened when you tried to do it before at that same, and you just keep scratching and just keep in that same spot, that same spot. This is what I want to say, because yes, Your water does have recall, but you have the ability to maneuver and move. Just like I want to play in that lower range, I can come to that middle range and play. I can choose to go to that upper range and play, depending on the outcome that I want to create. You have the ability to create what you want. Hear me. You have the ability to write your song in the key of life and make it what you want. You are in control. You are the one that makes the choices. Am I going to do this and stay in the low range octaves? Or am I going to be like a scratched record and continue to ruminate? Am I going to find the middle range where I can really work this thing with an occasional touch into the lower level, with an occasional touch into the higher range? I write that song and you move the needle, SK. You move the needle. Come on, Dr. Dady Priest. Take a half steps, walking towards your fears and your disappointments. Come on, chromatics. That's what we call chromatics. You move chromatically. You start on C, then you go to C sharp, then you go to D, then you go to E flat, then you go to E, then you go to F, then you go to F sharp, then you go to G, then you go to A flat, then you go to A, then you go to B flat, then you go to B, and then you come right back to C, because you've got those 7 steps of do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. You take those half steps and do the chromatics, or take a whole step. Whatever you need to do in your song that you're writing, you are the one that actually sits down and you determine whether or not you want that to be a flatted F or whether you want that to be a F natural. You decide whether or not you want that to be a G or an A flat. You are the one that's writing the song, but do not get stuck. And do not allow yourself to not move the needle, because I remember, listen, STL said water has memory. So yes, water has memory, but you have control of the needle. You have control of the notes. You have control. Hear me when I say this. Someone made a statement and I loved it, and I've used it ever since. I heard years ago, you have no control over the pain that someone causes in your life, but you are responsible for your healing. Okay, I'm gonna say that again. You have no control over the pain that someone caused in your life, but you have the responsibility and the control for your healing. Can I say that one more time? You have no control over what somebody did to you in your life, but you are the one that's responsible for your healing. Now, just marinate on that for a second. Just marinate on that for a second, because you can be healed. You can be healed. Please believe it. You can be healed, but you choose. Are you going to stay in the lower register and keep playing down there, all that rumbling and grumbling? Are you going to move to other octaves and other levels? You choose. That's your choice. That's your determination. That's your song that you're writing. And remember once more and again, come on, he creates the fruit of your lips, rebel. Create the fruit of your lips. What you speak, what you say, how you say it, that's what you're going to manifest. You create the fruit of your lips. Speak it. Speak it. Speak life and not death. Speak forward and not backward. Speak goals and not failures, because those failures are actually things that are going to help you to reach your goal. Hear me. If at first you don't succeed, try and try again. And I know that is an old adage that a lot of times we just throw that out like, child, ain't nobody paying no attention to that. Nobody is paying. But at the end of the day, I want you to understand that there's something in the trying again. There's something, because you learned something. When you failed, failure is not a loss. Failure is a learn. I'm going to say that again. Failure is not a loss. Failure is a learn. If you learn something from that experience, you have gained and you have tools in your toolbox that have been added to what you're working with. But do not take that L and make it a loss. I need you to take that L and make it a learn. And so what your memory, what that water is holding, what that water retains, what that water is, the memory that's there, you need to take that memory, and it can be done. It can be done. Please believe me. You need to take that memory and shift it into the appropriate interval and octave of where you need it for your song in the key of life personified. I love that, Dr. Dady. Your song in the key of life personified. You are the composer. You are the author. You are the songwriter. God gave you everything that you needed in boss energy to make it happen. God gave you everything that you needed in boss energy and gave you the ability to make it happen. Now, you've got the pen in your hand. You've got the instrument before you. That's your life. That's you. You are the instrument. You are the vessel. You are the glass of water. God gave you everything that you needed in your creative genius, in your intellect, in your understanding, in your idea. Listen, God gave you all of that. Now I need you to create. Am I talking to anybody? I need you to not take those things that you remember in your memory that are in the lower intervals or in the lower octaves and keep playing horror music and keep being terrified and keep being scared and keep being paralyzed. And you hear me say this term a lot, analysis paralysis, because some of you are those that find yourselves always analyzing. And at the end of the day, you never move forward because you spend so much time analyzing your situation that it becomes analysis paralysis and you never ever move forward. I need you to move and I need you to create. We are creators. When we talk about, listen, I'm going to say this. When we talk about being created in the image and the likeness of God, if God has a nose, how big is it? If God has eyes, how big are they? No, we're created in the image of God and we're in his likeness because we create. We are in the image of God because we speak words, and what we speak is created. And God said, and there was. And God said, and there was. And you said, and it was. And I said, and it was. And I wanted my song to sound like this, and it was. And Dr. Dady wanted her song to sound like that, and it was. And L7 Kings wanted the song to sound like this, and it was. And DJ Rock and Ron wanted the song to sound like this, and it was. And Yoshi's son 77 wanted the song to sound like this, and it was. We are created in the image and likeness of God because number one, we're creators, and number two, the words that we speak create. Am I talking to anybody this morning? So when we come into this idea that just like that glass of water, we've been poured in the middle of this earth. We've been poured in the middle of this universe. We've been poured. Come on in here, P-Dub Hall. Good to have you, P-Dub Hall. Now, listen, you've been poured in the middle of the universe. Just like that glass placed in the middle of the table. And that 75+% of water that you are, it does have memory. But I need you to learn how to work that memory to your advantage. Just like your brain, if it's not necessary, I don't remember that. Something in your body told your heart to beat. Hear me. And I want to come to this level of minutia. Something in your body told your heart to beat. Your brain did. The signal was sent. And your heart beats however many times per minute that your heart beats. But you do not remember your brain telling your heart to beat. It's too much information. That's too much data. But you remember it. You heard somebody, as a matter of fact, if we deal with the idea, and my time is almost up. I don't think my alarm went off. I'm over my time, 2 minutes. You heard noises during the night. Because even though you were asleep, but your ears were still recording the sounds that were in the room. But when you woke up this morning, unless it was a sound loud enough to jar you out of your sleep, and that's usually going to be done only because if your body has fight or flight, if something has happened, I need to pay attention, then it's going to wake you up. Otherwise, it's going to record that sound that you heard during the night, and you'll never remember it when you woke up. Because it's too much information. But it is remembered. So at the end of the day, what the brain does, it determines what you need to have access to in your memory, and it places it in a position where it's at your disposal so it can be used effectively and appropriately to move you forward. Now, I'm already past my time. I didn't realize my alarm didn't go off today. I may have turned my sounds off here. My apologies for that, because I'm past the reclaiming the text. Again, for those of you that just came in while I was teaching, this is Institute for Higher Consciousness. We have the first Saturday of every month that we come through, and we have an open session that anyone can attend. So this is what you've walked in on. This is not my regular streaming material. This is for the Institute of Higher Consciousness. We are currently looking at, and we've read the book, The Hidden Messages of Water by Dr. Masaru Emoto, and we are analyzing that text. So with that being said, I'm going to get ready to relinquish my stance in conversation. And this is where, thank you for everybody that's out here in Twitch this morning. I see you. Sheila Miles, I see you out there in YouTube. You guys came in from so many different. KK Michelle, I see you in Facebook. Ron, I appreciate you in YouTube as well. Nay Ray 1205, I see you. DJ Rockin' Ron, K2 Hoop, good morning to you all this morning. SK 8843, I see you in all the platforms. Yoshi Son, I appreciate you. P-Dub Hall, it's good to see you this morning, and I'm glad you were here to hear this. And L7 Kings L7, good to see you as well. Murdy 009, I appreciate you for being here. Again, this is our open session. We normally have this in a closed session in Discord. This is our open session of Institute for Higher Consciousness, and we're so glad that you all joined us. CJ Manning 7, good to see you as well. Good morning to you. And those of you that may not be chatting, we appreciate you. Now, class, you already know what the agenda is. Oh, there it goes. I was a few minutes early. Okay. So those that are in class, you can unmute yourselves and talk back to me. Anybody that wants to talk, anybody that wants to share. To those of you that are in the chat, My Lock Journey, good morning to you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm so glad you heard it, My Lock Journey. This is Institute for Higher Consciousness. The class, you can unmute yourselves and go ahead and begin to talk. Anybody that would like to comment in any of the other platforms, just go ahead and chat. I'm going to say to you in YouTube, you might start writing ASAP, because YouTube is the slowest chat to get back to me, and sometimes it doesn't make its way here. But if you're in YouTube, you can talk to me. It just takes a little bit longer to reach me. Now, that being said, this is what we talked about on today. We're in chapter 2. We've started chapter 2, and we started with this idea that water records everything and how to manage what's been recorded. All right. Anybody that wants to talk to me out there in the class, go ahead and unmute yourself. I see you. Go right ahead, Sassy Cassie.
Good morning, STL and everyone. It's always so marvelous to be in here to learn about myself, because when you're teaching, I glean so much of what I need to have the movement that I need. And I will say, in the scale that you talk about, it's like do, re, mi, and I just got stuck on me, which is a lower register, but I am changing octaves, and I'm building and making a better me, and that's all I have to say.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Sassy Cassie, you always bless me. You always bless me. I love that. And I'm glad that you were able to get that takeaway. Erica Jarrett, good morning to you, fam. So good to have you here in Institute for Higher Conscious open session. And thank you for coming. Dr. Dady Priest, go right ahead, sis.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Sassy Cassie, I absolutely love just how you just your natural wordsmith, and I love hearing everything you have to say. Part of my takeaway this morning, I love when you just talked about how making that analogy that songs in the key of life personified is my takeaway, and hope everyone can use that. But it's like we have the ability to engineer our own futures. And when we think about how things are happening, some of us have trepidation when it comes to artificial intelligence, but we know that water is real. And in the book, it says that water is the mother and energy of life.
Yes.
And so all of this, we talk about engagement matters. Well, everything matters, and we're all in rotation. So I definitely appreciate hearing, hey, we are as creators expected to utilize our gifts saturated with water. That's all I have.
Thank you, Dr. Day. That is so powerful. That is so powerful. And listen, it is the mother and the energy of life. And if we understand that, we can use it. I've been using this concept and saying my religion is flow. I'm just telling you, as I've come into a different place and a different understanding, I understand that everything by the power and the grace of God, it is in order when it flows and flows appropriately. So I'm always at that point where it's like, listen, that's the way I flow, and that's my religion. That's my God connection right there. Because again, water is that mother and power and life source of life itself. So that's the way we do. Come on, SK 8843 flow. That's what it's about. And Dr. Dady, Erica Jarrett is saying good morning to you. So I want to pass that on because I don't know that you're in Twitch, but I do want to share that with you. And thank you for those warm wishes, Erica. And we're glad to have you with us here with us on today. It's Quizzy. This is actually the Institute for Higher Consciousness, which is a class, and it's held every Saturday. But it just so happens that on the first Saturday of every month, we open the class up to anybody that wants to come into the class. So that's what you walked in on. We've already had the class session. But this is the redeeming. This is what we take away, reclaiming the text. And this is where we have, oh, it's Sunday where you are. Okay. Well, it's Saturday morning here. So you're ahead of us just a little bit. But I'm glad that you're here. Thank you for coming and joining us here. We are in different places, but I'm streaming personally from Texas, the little state of Texas in the United States of America. So thank you for joining us. Tell me where you're from. Tell me where you're from. And thank you for being here. Anybody else that wants to talk? I'm looking to see. Just go ahead and unmute yourselves and start to talk. And I'm looking in all the chats here. You're from Central Africa, but you're in Australia. Come through. Welcome. We're so glad to have you. And thank you for coming in. Thank you. It's good to have you here. Blessings to you. Anyone else that wants to share? Let me go back and I'm going to look at some of the other comments if I've missed anything as well. Go ahead, truck driver.
Good morning, everyone. As you would say, and as I have found out, water is powerful. Water will speak to you. And STL knows what I'm talking about, and fairly all day know what I'm talking about. I had to go sit at the water. Water is powerful, y'all. I promise y'all, if y'all just take these concepts that is in the book that he wrote about how water can just talk and vibrate to you, trust me, it is real. That's all I want to say. But all I can say is it's real.
Come through, truck. Come through. And yes, I know what you're saying. And I'm telling you, there's so much power in the water. Water is absolutely powerful. My life journey. It's absolutely powerful. Kachik, you're in the midst. I don't know if you can talk right now, if you want to unmute yourself. And I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but I didn't know if you wanted to say something. I can't see your particular block. Let me see if I can move this around. But please, if you have something that you want to say, sis, go right ahead. And if not, you can just type pass in the in the chat, and we'll keep going. But you always have gems and jewels. I don't want to miss you.
Morning, everyone. Thank you, spiritual thought leader. Learned a lot about myself today, and now need to work on breaking through the analysis paralysis, because that is me. So I just had a short word today. A lot of things I learned from this lesson today. I just want to thank you for that.
Awesome. Awesome. And I'm going to add, that was you. That was you. So as of today, we're moving to another octave. We're moving to another octave. And so at the end of the day, you got to identify where you're at before you can deal with it. You know, and I just like the same concept in AA or any of the anonymous programs. If anyone is familiar with those, you got to first admit or acknowledge where you're at. You got to see yourself and understand what's going on inside of you, what's going on inside of your energy, what's going on inside of your mind. I hope that this, even whether it's analysis paralysis or whether it's that scratched record where you're ruminating, I've learned in time there are so many people that ruminate and they just replay it, go over it, go over it, go over it, and go over it. And some of you are going to need to actually just start practicing releasing stuff and just stop talking about it. Release it, stop thinking about it. Or again, as I said at the very onset of this, if you're ruminating at a level that it is hindering you, you may need to go to therapy. And there's nothing wrong with therapy. If you're absolutely stuck in the mud and you cannot get out, I was raised in the country, so this analogy is very clear in my mind. You can take a car, and if you get that mud just right, and you try to drive out and you're spinning your wheels will actually keep going deeper and deeper and deeper. I've seen many times where they'll take a board and stick up under that tire because you need to get some traction, or they may take a large piece of cardboard and stick between that tire and try to get it in the mud as much as they can to make a surface between the mud and the tire so it can get enough traction to pull itself out. Some of you in that place of ruminating, and that rumination just allows you to just keep going. That tires, they just keep going deeper, deeper. And then sometimes too, understand this, there were different methods, and depending on if it was snow sometimes or mud, they may rock the car out. And what do I mean when I say rock the car out? Because what they would do would be they'd put it in drive, and then while the car's going forward, then they'd put it in reverse, and then the car would go backwards, and then put it in drive, and the car would go forward, and then put it in reverse, and then put it, and you're rocking because you need to do something different than that same rut. You need to do something different and you're hoping that one of those is going to get enough momentum forwards or backwards to go ahead and rock that wheel out of that rut. Some of you may need to either get something else and stick in the surface, whether that might be a therapist, whether it might be some coaching, whether it might be whatever it is. You might need to either get something and stick it between the tire and the mud or the snow and get some traction, or you might need to rock that thing out. You might need to take some momentum and keep changing, because the change is what gets you out. The change is what's pulling you up out of the snow or out of the mud. It's the change from the reverse to the drive, to the reverse to the drive. I just keep changing. That's where we get the quote rocking. Rock that car until it comes out of the snow or the mud. You may need to keep changing up. And for many, that's the thing, because you just keep doing the same thing over and over and over. You talk about the same things over and over and over. You fear the same fears over and over and over. So this is where I want you all to take this and try to understand, I am the one that creates. I'm the one that's writing this song. If I'm stuck, if my record is scratched, and I can't bump the needle. Now I'm going to say that again. If bumping the needle doesn't get it to the next groove in the record, you might need to go to therapy. If you can't bump the needle and get it to go to that next groove, you may in fact need to go to therapy. And there's nothing wrong with therapy. Anybody that feels some kind of way, anxious or otherwise, about therapy, there is nothing wrong with therapy. If that scratch is so significant that you need that extra, get it. There's nothing wrong, because you are a creator. Don't stifle your creativity because you won't get help. Okay. Yoshi-san, personally, you had a great revelation about preservation and still must work daily not to get lost in it. Okay. I got you. And just keep doing the work. Just keep doing the work. I am stuck, Chuck. Bronx Harlem girl, but we gonna work to get you unstuck, sis. We gonna work to get you unstuck. So at the end of the day, I'm listening. I'm coming back up. It's Quizzy. So is this about believing in there's some type of power alongside water? We're reading a book. We believe in the power of God, but we're reading in a book by Dr. Emoto. Let me pull it up so you can see what we're talking about. The hidden messages in water. And this is based on an experiment that a professor did in a laboratory and the results that come from it. And we're using it for spiritual empowerment. We're using it as an analogy for spiritual empowerment, if that helps you to understand. I got you, Yoshi-san. So there, oh yeah, we're going to get you unstuck, Harlem girl. We're going to get you unstuck. This is what it's about, because you are created and you have boss energy, you have power, and you are a creator. Please believe it. And that's for everybody, not just for some. It's for everyone. I'm going to come out of that. It's for everybody. And I want to see you come into the fullness of what God has created you to be. And then, of course, when we pull all of our creative energies together and we begin to work as one and work as a unit, then the change that we want to see in the world, we'll have the capacity to do that. But again, the first change that we've got to see is in ourselves. We can't try to change the world and everybody else in it if we're not changed ourselves. Take us to the pure, clean, and flowing water. Come on with that. I see you talking to me, Sassy Cassie, and I love it. Take us to the pure, clean, and flowing water to be baptized. We've got places to go and flow. You identify you need new traction, changes, and frequencies. I am a creative, and the support is beautiful. And we definitely support you here, Sassy Cassie. Your transformation has been nothing less than stunning and absolutely beautiful. And I've enjoyed seeing you come from that caterpillar through the chrysalis, or as we say, the cocoon, into that beautiful butterfly. And you are beautiful, sis. And all the support is here for you and will continue to be. I love what you said. Take us to the pure, clean, and flowing water to be baptized. That's what we want to be baptized in. We've got places to go and we've got places to flow. L7 Kings. Usually you're working on Saturdays. You decided not to go to work due to the stress there. This was meant to be. Come on, L7 Kings. Listen, it's all about divine destiny, divine assignment, divine purpose, and nothing is an accident. I'm so glad that you thought it well to come in to the Lion's Den this morning, because listen, you had a choice to turn it on, or you had a choice to do something else. You had a choice to turn it on and come in and leave, and you had a choice to come in and listen and stay, and you chose to stay, and there's no accident in that. I'm so glad. And I rebuke stress, and anything that you need, give me a call, my sister, hook up with me. If you're not in my Discord, jump into my Discord channel, and we'll chat. We'll chat. Bronx Harlem girl, definitely mental health is more important. And yes, you are in the right place. You are in the right place. There's my Discord. Go into Discord and please join it. And I'm happy to make that connection. And that's usually where I do all of my coaching and counseling from Discord. Just reach out to me. And when I say counseling, just chit chat. We may just need to chit chat. I don't even want to necessarily call it either or. Sometimes you just need somebody in a listening ear. And that's what we're here for. Anybody else that wants to chat, chime in. Anybody else that wants to chime in. I want to say thank you to the Rebel Inc. who is modding for us on today. You're always in the place, and I appreciate you for modding. Once more and again, as we get ready to close out, this has been Institute for Higher Consciousness. It is the institute where we train and we learn the boss energy path, and we're learning about ourselves through journeys so that we can move in our boss energy. And it's all about being and operating at the highest degree of love that we can operate, being the absolute best you that you can be. It's not about competition with anybody else. It's not. We are sojourners together on this life trail. And I appreciate everybody that came in today. From all the different platforms, I see you, KK Michelle. Thank you for Facebook joining in. We've got YouTube joining in. We've got Twitch joining in. You are so welcome, Yoshi-san. You are so welcome. And it's my pleasure. Every first Sunday of every month, we open up the Institute to anybody and everybody that would like to come into the class, and we have an open session. So thank you to everybody that's here. I absolutely love you and appreciate you. I'm going to give one more pause for the cause. If there's anybody else that wants to take yourself off of mute, you are so welcome, Kai Chick. You are so welcome. Anybody else that wants to take yourself off, I see you all typing. You're very welcome, Dr. Dady Priest. Everybody, you are absolutely positively welcome. I can give you a few minutes back because the Institute is 75 minutes long total. We're usually out of here by 10:15. It's 9:58. So I'm going to give you some minutes to redeem back to yourself. Oh, John Studios, I'm glad you've been lurking, and thank you. Thank you. I hope it blessed you, sir. Thank you so much. And to all of the lurkers, and I'm so glad you came out and said something, John Studios, and he is a streamer with Yoshi-san 77, DJ Rock and Ron. To those, I want to acknowledge Bronx Harlem Girl. I'm sorry, and My Lock Journey. I call her the Whisper, the Lock Whisperer. Let me scroll through real fast now that I started calling names because I don't want to miss anybody that's in here. I appreciate all of the streamers that came in this morning. And to all of you that are lurking that did not say a peep and did not say a mumbling word, I still appreciate you for being here. And I love you. I absolutely positively do. I see you typing, Kai Chicken. So I want to give everybody a chance to say what you want to say before we close this down. We don't raid on Saturdays simply because this is a class. It's not a normal stream. So, oh, you're off to volunteer at a community event. Thank you. You have an awesome thing. And thank you for your volunteerism. You are very active as a volunteer, and that's how we change the world. That is how we change the world. Thank you for your volunteerism. We appreciate you. If all hearts and minds are clear, I'm looking at all my different platforms. I'm trying to make sure I don't want to miss anybody. There will be no Church of Funk, Thug Life Devotion, and Word on Fire. There will be no Waking the Lions tomorrow morning. I have another ministry assignment that I have to attend to, and I had a conflict of time schedule. We will be back with Waking the Lions ministry on next Sunday, but nothing tomorrow. So I will not see you again till Tuesday morning. Everybody, listen, have an amazing day on purpose and peace for your journey. I love you.